I've heard people talking about Noodler's ink. What is it?
It is ink unlike that ever released before for consumer consumption. Almost all of the inks are light-fast. Many are pH neutral or archival, in scrapbooking parlance. There are refillable highlighter inks and ultraviolet inks. Perhaps most intriguing though, a whole range of these inks are waterproof and chemical resistant, or as Nathan puts it, bulletproof.
Why only in Noodler's?
Most of what Noodler's ink releases are either vintage formulations from defunct companies or failed prototype inks from mainstream manufacturers. Nathan seems to enjoy re-releasing long-dead inks or those deemed unsuitable for use in fountain pens by pen companies and larger ink manufacturers.
Is it safe for fountain pens?
The jury is still out on this issue. Nathan refuses to release his ingredient lists, ostensibly to prevent Chinese firms from stealing his trade secrets. Many of the inks are known to clog or dissolve pens, including but not limited to the Bay State, UK, Russian lines, along with polar brown and various highlighter colors. Despite the demonstrated market for such inks, no other manufacturer has shown any interest in marketing such inks. Most pen companies such as Montblanc and Pelikan will not service pens under warranty if Noodler's ink has been loaded into them. Among restorers, Richard Binder is perhaps the kindest, reminding people to flush their pens often and be ready to deal with problems if Noodler's ink is used. Most other restorers flatly state outright that Noodler's ink is dangerous to pens. Nathan is not a pen manufacturer and he has not tested his inks with most types of pens. While his ink may not harm your pen, you can be certain that the branded ink from your pen maker will not. Montblanc ink, for instance, is loaded daily into pens worth $10,000.
Why do some bottles have different variations of the same color?
Most of the inks are saturated and sediment out in both the bottle and the pen. If the color appears different than you expected, try shaking the ink to get the solids suspended again.
What is nib creep?
Due to the large amount of diadnate, a lot of detergent or surfactant needs to be added to keep all the goop in solution. Just like in dishwashing soap, the detergent surrounds the insoluble oily components and allows them to be suspended in water. A side effect, though, is that the surface tension of water is lessened as you add more and more detergent. This results in the spreading that some users refer to as nib creep.
Why does it still smear?
Even the bulletproof inks tend to run when wet and most smear for a long time after you write. Again, this is due to the high amount of dye used. The ink in contact with the paper dries permanently, but the ink above it dries, albeit slowly, as a layer on the bonded ink. When this top layer gets wet, it reconstitutes as ink and runs. Similarly, the dry top layer is not strongly bonded to anything, it's simply a powder layer, so it smears.
What is Noodler's ink good for?
Noodler's fills a very specific niche market. If you need colored permanent ink for a fountain pen, then it is really the only game in town. Only if you need all three things: 1. Permanent. 2. Colored. 3. Fountain pen, would I recommend that you use Noodler's inks. Otherwise, there are better options out there.
Okay, I really need to use Noodler's. How do I minimize damage?
Follow the advice that Nathan gives every time a new ink is reported to be causing problems. Use a vintage pen with an ebonite feed and have the nib adjusted so that you can see light between the tines. Beyond that, consider flushing your pen at least weekly, if not more often, and only use a pen that you can afford to lose. Expect staining of the converter and possibly the body end section. Also, carefully research the color you are interested in on the fountain pen network.